What's up guys, welcome to the channel, S2S TV. We have Taylor Ray's drift car on the lift. And if you watched the previous episode over at Taylor's channel, you've seen that we're gonna do a full long tube header setup with titanium exhaust, 3-inch all the way out. We have his stock manifolds pulled out. Everything's ready to go to start mocking everything up. I have my test piece right here cut, so I can start seeing exactly what kind of clearance I'm gonna have. That frame rail's super tight, so it's gonna be really difficult to get all 4 primaries to play nice in that little area. But I think we'll get it done. What do you think, Mike? We'll get it done. All right guys, enough talking. Let's get to work.
It still doesn't feel quite real yet, because I know it's gonna be tough. I know you can do it, but I know it's gonna be a struggle.
I'm glad you have faith.
I do have faith. I have full faith.
Like, this is a good reason why. So this is stainless, right?
Right.
You hear that? This is titanium. You hear how deeper that is?
Yeah. And just solid.
The reason... someone's saying. This is gonna create a way deeper tone. So your exhaust, you're gonna like feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like really, really deep and like just pissed.
I feel like doing this in straight pipes with stainless, it would just sound so annoyingly raspy.
Yeah. So for stainless, if you want it really deep, you have to go really big.
Okay.
But the problem with that is with like your car, for instance,
3 inches is gonna be a stretch.
you're gonna go so big, you're gonna lose whatever back pressure that made sense.
Yeah.
So with titanium, you can go actually smaller with the size that you need, and it'll give you that deep sound.
Why is that, Tim?
It's all about sound waves, and I'm not gonna go into it. Let's get that skid plate on and see what those collectors look like.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I got the collector where I want it with this floor jack and these 2 Ticon spring clamps. So once you get the collector pretty much where you want to go, then you can start running this first primary. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this as tight as I can to the inside of this firewall right up against these lines. We're going to have to move these lines obviously, but this first primary is what's going to dictate the rest of the 4 coming around this starter here. So I'm going to get this first one ran up to this rear port and then start working my way forward. Now that this first primary is in, I can start running my other runners back. But the main point was to try to get this one as far back as I could. So now that my point A and point B are fixed, it makes it easier to make the rest of the header. Long tube headers on the Miata are almost there. Got the passenger side pretty much wrapped up, and the driver's side, I have 1 primary left. I wanted to stop here and highlight this part, guys, because this is really important. When you're building headers, you want to nest all of these primaries together, because when you get to this last primary and you're not getting all of these previous ones as tight as you can, nesting them in so they're almost touching each other, because your space is so limited, it's almost like putting a bunch of cars in a garage and parking the first one like dead center in the middle of the garage. You want to make sure that when you put everything in, you're trying to maximize as much space as you can while you're going. So then when you're at the end of your rope, or you have the last primary to go, I gave myself enough room. So I jogged this one back instead of taking a straight shot. I jogged this one back instead of taking a straight shot. So now I have enough room to take this last primary and run it right up in this nice open area here to the very first port on the motor. Getting them out is going to be a little tricky, but 1 more primary to go, and we're going to have these on the bench, and we'll talk a little more about the design and what we're going to do moving forward. There's a universal joint at the front, but I don't know. The steering shaft goes into the chassis, and I don't know what's on the other side. Actually, looks like the header will drop right down there. I'll pop this starter out. Yeah, just like I thought, we're gonna have to undo the starter and drop it all down at the same time in order for it to work. All right, so we took the starter out first to get the header out of the way, because the header pretty much just encapsulates the starter. So just loosened the header, we slipped it out the front. It was a bit of a bear. We have a little bit of footage of it, and I look like an idiot, but now let's pull this header out. The trick is always to try to get a header that'll come in and out of a car without having an undue motor mount. All right, so to this side, the steering column went through these 2 primaries and these 2 primaries. removing and putting the header back in. It's just taking this guy out. Not a huge deal, but we did have to undo this steering column or the steering rack and pivot it down a little bit. Let's see if the header wants to play nice and come out. All right, so we're gonna have to jack the motor up in order to get it out of there. I literally just said a good set of headers is when you don't have to undo a motor mount and jack it up. And here we are on the driver's side, and we had to do just that. So we undid the bolt, jacked it up just a hair, just allowed it to snake by the motor to be able to slide out. And the reason we had to do that is because all these primaries go over the frame rail. So the frame rail like sits like here, because these two had to go on the opposite side of the steering shaft, and these two went on the inside of the steering shaft. So that stopped it from being able to just slide out with ease. All right guys, we got the headers finally out of the car and done. And it was not necessarily a hassle, but we had to jack up the driver's side motor mount as you saw, and to get that header out. These are the headers out of the car. They're all tacked up. All of these points are all tacked to the point where it'll pretty much stay where it needs to be. But the next step is I have to build partial fixtures in order to locate the collector and locate the flange. Once I do that, it's going to enable me to be able to break these down, weld these primaries up all the way completely, and then weld everything back together nice and beautiful so that they can be final installed in the car. After that, we'll do our installation, and then we're going to move on to our Ticon goodies and start making some titanium 3-inch exhaust with some pie cuts and some fun with this. So thanks for subscribing, guys. Thanks for watching this episode. On the next episode, we're going to continue on with these long tube headers, and then we're going to keep going on the titanium and hopefully get Taylor's car back on track sooner than later. We'll see you later.